Welcome to The Blast Zone, the podcast where we dig up the bombs that shook Hollywood and try to find out why they went up in flames. This week, whoa, Black Betty, ambulance. This is Ambulance. Welcome to The Blast Zone.
Welcome to The Blast Zone.
We are not a podcast about bad movies. We are a podcast about movies that did badly.
That's right.
I am Jon Drake, in-house film critic of my Letterboxd account.
And I'm Ian Dukes. I'm a person with thoughts and feelings, and some of them are about movies.
Movies like Ambulance, which we'll be talking about today. But before we get into that, Ian, how are you doing this week?
Well, we had a cold and wet week out here by LA standards, at least. Wasn't New England weather, maybe more like Pacific Northwest style, but apparently it was nothing compared to what you've been dealing with this week. So I will yield my floor time to you if that's what you care to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I was tempting fate a little bit last episode when I brought up ice dams and said that so far I had not personally been affected by them.
Oh.
And now to steal a line from you, ice dams, more like ice dam, because...
Hold on, I need to credit Ron. That was Ron who said that to you.
Fucking Ron. Now I feel terrible praising him to our listeners, that bastard. No, we love Ron. We'll have him back on soon.
Hope so.
The people are clamoring for it, I think. They don't tell me, but I could just sense it. Yeah, I've been up on my roof, I don't know, 8 of the last 10 days.
Oh, wow.
In rainstorms and snowstorms, clearing ice, chiseling away at these huge glaciers that have formed on my roof. Because the problem is we've had more snow than typical, but it's the coldest winter on record.
Wow.
So the snow just doesn't leave. Then it ices at the edges of your roof line. And then when the snow does melt, it can't get off your roof because there's an ice dam that's blocking the water. So you have to either chisel away at the ice, which I've been doing, but then there's some spots where you can't quite do that. And you have to like fill up pantyhose with ice melt, calcium chloride, and then lay them vertically across the ice so it melts it and makes tunnels for the water to drain through.
Wow, complicated.
I'm not going to put a picture of my roof on the internet because that's silly. But just to paint a picture, I have a living room. I have a big picture window at the top of the living room, the pit, the sunken living room, as we call it. Me and you shared several beers and much conversation there.
A very cozy place.
But above that, there's an eaves above it. There was chunks of ice on top of that. I was scared if I just dragged the whole thing off, it's probably like a 300-pound chunk of ice. I'm like, it's going to fuck my roof up. Or if it falls on its own as it melts. So I was up there chiseling off like 40 to 50-pound blocks of ice on my very steeply graded roof that was covered in ice and picking up these huge 40, 50-pound chunks of ice, placing them gently on my roof and then just giving them a little push. They would slide off and not fall on my roof and break it.
My gosh. I'm just glad you survived all this. This sounds not only difficult and cold and miserable, but like really dangerous to your personal health. Like falling off that roof is frighteningly easy to imagine.
If I had fallen off early in this process, I probably would have been fine because there was like 18 inches of snow beneath me and it was fluffy. But now it's like just craggly pieces of ice at the bottom of my of the ladder. So if I fall off now, I'm probably going to get impaled.
Crippled at best. That is awful.
The funny thing, though, is like I don't have a fear of heights, not like a phobia, but I don't like being up on a roof. And there have been times in the past where I've had to get on the roof as a homeowner. It's just something you do. Maybe 4 or 5 times in the 5 years I lived at this house before this week. And it would always take me like 10 minutes to get off the roof because I would just be like hyping myself up to throw my leg over the ladder. Like that first time you have to turn your body so your back is to the ground.
The void.
Put your foot down was very scary for me. But now I climb up the thing. I just climb up. I hop onto the roof. I do what I got to do. I climb down and like I could be up and down in like 20 seconds now.
Damn.
But like you said, when we were talking, just be careful enough where you don't fall off.
Yeah. Don't lose that fear entirely because that's when it gets you.
Yeah. But it's actively snowing right now, but not a lot. And there's nothing in the forecast suggesting it's going to get cold like it was. So I'm hoping the worst is behind us now.
I will personally slaughter a bunch of groundhogs if it helps the springtime come any sooner.
It's on site with Phil. Don't let that motherfucker cross my path. I will end his stupid little ass. But that's what I got going on. So thank you for ceding your time to me so I can vent.
It was important to hear this, what you're going through.
Speaking of what we're going through, I understand you watched a bit of an emotional movie for show and tell this week. Did you want to tell the listeners about that?
Oh man, I went through it. I watched Hamnet, the new Oscar darling, directed by Chloe Zhao, who also happened to co-write the screenplay with Maggie O'Farrell, who is the author who wrote the novel. I need to stop here at the top of talking about Hamnet and issue a little trigger warning, specifically to you, John.
Oh, no.
This is the second time in a row. Last time I brought If I Had Legs. I need to say, be careful going into this movie if you're not in a good place, because Hamnet might be distressing to watch as a parent of young children.
Brother, I don't remember the last time I was in a good place. Yeah. They closed all the Buffalo Wild Wings near me. There's no good places left.
Oh, darn it.
No, that's not true. There's still one.
Unlike If I Had Legs, this movie's not one that tries to upset you or antagonize you, but it is a really emotional movie. It's about love and loss and grief. It's really moving. And this is going to sound very postmodern, but I literally soaked my VR headset in tears watching this movie, but in a good way, because it's a beautiful movie. It's so good at making you feel feelings. I actually had these like small qualms with it on an intellectual level as the movie was developing, but those kind of just fell away because I recognized that this is a movie about emotion, not intellect, and it's just excellent on its own level. Jessie Buckley is the star of it, and man, does she ever star in this movie. I already liked her because I saw her in things like I'm Thinking of Ending Things and even in Men. She is phenomenal in this. I like Paul Mescal too, but honestly, he takes a major back seat to Buckley, and that's by design, the way I take it. Between Jessie Buckley and Rose Byrne and Emma Stone, I've now seen 3 of the 5 Oscar nominees in the Best Actress category. And right now, I might give a slight edge to Jessie.
Yeah, Jessie's getting some rave reviews for this one. I know our boy Paul Mescal is also getting some solid reviews for this. And Jessie Buckley's got another big movie coming out soon. She's got The Bride. That's going to be...
That seems wild.
Yeah. I know Jake, who we're going to be talking about a lot today, is in that, but it's directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Maggie Gyllenhaal, I guess, not as prevalent as an actor lately, but she is still working hard behind the scenes.
That's cool.
Getting stuff made. Yeah, she hasn't acted since 2021. So I guess this is her new... It's not her debut. She has directed one movie before. 2021's The Lost Daughter. But yeah, Jessie Buckley is getting all the praise for this performance, and I'm sure it's well deserved. I've seen more than a few Jessie Buckley movies I didn't really like, but I've never seen a Jessie Buckley performance I didn't like.
She's quite an actor, and it's just a cool-ass character. You're drawn to her right away, just like William Shakespeare is, and she just really holds down this movie.
Is she the titular Hamnet?
Hamnet is their son. I don't want to spoil the story, but it's actual history of Shakespeare's wife and family.
I had assumed this wasn't like an alternate historical fiction. I assumed this was rooted in some kind of history.
Yeah, it's rooted in history. The costumes and the settings are really cool, but you don't have to really know all that much about the history or care. It's a really personal story about this family and their relationships.
It's not on my short list of movies I've been meaning to watch, but I should check it out. To quote you talking about Train Dreams, I always felt like it was a vegetables movie. And lately I've been craving mozzarella sticks.
Yeah, I hear that.
But I should eat my vegetables too, because colon cancer is on the rise among young men, and it's one of the leading causes.
Take care of yourself.
Speaking of vegetables movies, I watched An Emotional Journey, a heartbreaking story about love and family and loss. I watched the 2025 remake of Anaconda, starring Jack Black. Listen to this cast. We got Jack Black, Paul Rudd, Steve Zahn, our boy, Thandui Newton, and then there's some other big names that are surprises, so I will save them.
Okay.
I went into this movie with super low expectations, and I was right. It's the rare thing where you expect a movie to be bad, and it is. It wasn't terrible. There are some laughs in this movie, I admit, with Paul Rudd and Steve Zahn, and to a lesser extent Jack Black, because I'm over the whole modern day Jack Black experiment. He's been one note for a large number of years now, to me anyway.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But Zahn's hilarious in this, like he always is, playing just an older, sadder version of his burned out stoner character from every other movie, but now he's like in his 50s, so it's got a different tenor to it. And the early parts of this movie, before they set off for the Amazon, are all set in Buffalo, New York, which is always fun for me because I lived in Buffalo and I'm very fond of it.
Sure.
And it's about a group of friends. Paul Rudd's a struggling actor in LA, gets fired from a job, goes and surprises his friend Jack Black for his birthday party back in Buffalo, and lets it slip that he's acquired the rights to Anaconda. And they want to remake the film because it was a favorite of their childhood, which I have qualms with that because Paul Rudd was like in his 30s when Anaconda came out.
Okay, yeah.
He was already like a movie star when that movie came out. And Jack Black was too, actually. They were both prominent adult men. Steve's on, like all of them, the whole cast. So this whole scenario doesn't quite add up to me. But so they set off to make a guerrilla filmmaking style reboot of Anaconda. And hijinks ensue. Some of the best characters are people they meet in the Amazon. Selton Mello plays the snake handler, Santiago. He's probably the highlight of the movie for me. Like I said, there are some funny sequences, but it's rated R. It's got a huge body count. It's almost completely bloodless, which was very disappointing. If you're going to do like a creature feature horror comedy, I feel like you got to lean into the wacky gore as part of it. That always worked for like the trauma movies, and it's just missing from this. But it's not a complete waste of time. I hedged myself because I don't want to go too in depth with it because I was like, we're definitely going to have to talk about it at some point because I could have sworn this movie came and went with nobody giving a shit, but it made $140 million.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a surprise to me too, because I had the same impression. Oh, did they really put that movie out, or was the trailer that I saw like a gag and they didn't release it? It like just didn't exist. But I guess it did for a lot of people.
It actually is one of those movies that I like to describe as like a better idea for a trailer, like for a joke trailer than an actual movie. If they just kept it as a trailer, I think it would have been a hilarious gag. But then the movie's an hour and 40 minutes and it doesn't have the wind in its sails to quite make it that far and still be enjoyable.
That's too bad.
But if you're a Steve Zahn fan like me, or a Paul Rudd fan, or a Jack Black fan, or a Tandui Newton fan, there's a small cast, so they all get plenty of screen time, and they're all perfectly serviceable in it. There's not really a bad performance in it. It's more just a concept that was stretched too thin.
All right. Sounds like a mozzarella stick that I'm going to leave in the basket and go back to eating more of my vegetables.
I'm sorry, you need a new metaphor because there's no leaving the mozzarella stick behind. We're like the Marines, no mozzarella stick left behind.
It's a good motto.
All right, so ambulance. Ian, you, on a previous episode of this show, said that you tried to watch this over someone's shoulder on an airplane, but you didn't have enough cocaine to get on its wavelength. Am I remembering that correctly?
Wait a minute. I think you're combining Ron's and my experience again.
Oh, I am. Jesus. Yeah.
I think Ron said he liked it, but he only saw it over the shoulder.
Right.
I said I tried to watch it and I couldn't keep up with its pace. Because I remember when this movie came to streaming, I had a little bit of enthusiasm because there was a videography YouTuber named Potato Jet that I used to follow. They let him come on set. He interviewed Bay and the stars and spent time with, he was into the drone racing pilots because Bay had hired these actual celebrity drone racing champs to do the drone videography on the movie. And so I saw a lot of the hype and I felt like this is going to be something at least visually new and fun and interesting. And so I was kind of into checking it out. And then I turned it on and I think I lasted 10 minutes. And I don't know if it was like I couldn't keep up with the Gyllenhaal energy level or I was actually bored.
Who can?
Yeah, no, you can't try. That's an important lesson that you take away from this movie. But also I was just like, the story's not that compelling. We'll get all into it, but it's not the best movie.
It's not the worst, though. Oh, before I move on, I have to ask, why did you stop following Mr. Potato Jet? Did he do something cancelable?
Not that I know of. I became less interested in studying cameras and cinematography. And actually, there's one thing that I have to cancel him for. He was a skater and he was doing like a gimbal camera demo where he was filming himself while he was skating and he took a fall and he got up and his elbow was dislocated or broken and it was pointing the wrong direction. And he published that video on YouTube and just snuck it into an ordinary video. And I'm like, I don't need to see body horror in my YouTube instructional videos. And after that day, I was like tentative to ever put his stuff on again.
All right, fair. He burned you. I get it. I watched Ambulance I did watch it on a plane. I must have flown right after it hit. It might have even been in that weird window where you can watch it on a plane, but not at home yet. Like there are some times where you'll catch a movie that's, if not still in theaters, then just freshly out of theaters, but not yet available on VOD. There were longer windows in years past. Now it's all pretty immediate.
Sure.
Once it's no longer in the theater, they put it right on streaming. And I liked it. And I will admit fully, the big part of why I liked it is I'm a huge Jake Gyllenhaal fan, as you know. I have some fond memories of Michael Bay films from my childhood. Maybe we'll talk more about that as we go on. And Eiza Gonzales, Ooga, and Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who wasn't quite a favorite yet. And I don't think this movie made him a favorite, but I was like, this guy's got something.
Sure, yeah.
And not to mention fucking Garret Dillahunt, my boy, firmly in the category of one of my guys.
Good cast.
We're just very good. That's the thing about Bay, though. Go back to our Island episode and hear some of the names we're dropping as like little side characters. It's insane, the people that he gets to star in his movies. I think people are just, they get to film in California with him, I think is part of it.
Okay, yeah.
He doesn't really leave LA. So if you're making a movie with Michael Bay, you get to stay home. I was going to say he must be easy to work with, but I know that's not true from anecdotal stories over the years. But this is a movie that barely works if you think about it for more than a minute. But if you just let the vibes wash over you and enjoy Jake Gyllenhaal just being an absolute madman for 2 hours and 10 minutes of the 2 hours and 16-minute runtime, then you're going to have a pretty good time relative to other Michael Bay movies for sure. But like, it's textbook garbage crime, which is a genre of movie that I believe Chris Ryan invented, coined the term for.
Sure.
Crime movies are my favorite type of movie. So even a mediocre one, if it's got one or two aspects that you can really like latch onto and find something special in, I'll probably enjoy myself. And for this, it's Jake. He's the reason to watch this movie.
He's really having fun with it. And yeah, there was definitely times where I got on board that train. I had fun with the fun he was having. The movie overall, though, to put it even in the category, like I understand that it's doing the crime genre, right? It's about a heist gone wrong, very classic crime movie plot, cops and robbers shooting it out in the street. It's got all those things, but somehow Michael Bay turns it into a sketch of a movie. We'll have to get into the Michael Bay of the whole thing, but this movie is frustrating and confusing if you are part of the reality-based community, and Michael Bay is very insistently not part of reality. movie.
Yeah.
He is drawing rough sketches of things that would go in movies, and they don't necessarily go, but it's weird. He's weird because other filmmakers who do stuff that becomes tongue-in-cheek or like self-referential or meta, those filmmakers always sort of let you know. They wink. They give you some clues that they're in on the joke. They're doing pastiche. They're doing send-up of genre stuff. But he doesn't. He's like a child that's just doing this stuff because he thinks it's cool as hell. And it's like really hard to get on his level for me.
I think it's important to note that, as far as I know, Michael Bay does not possess a sense of humor or even know what one is. And I think that's why the humor in his movies is all either very much in the same vein, which is like the therapy scene in this movie is a good example, just like old tired tropes from his childhood that are now past their expiration date, or he hires funny people and lets them cook, like with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence in Bad Boys. He was like, I'm not funny, but these guys are, and I'll just let them carry that part of the movie. But there's really not much in the scripts that point to him having any sense of humor about himself or his movies, or just like the situations his characters find themselves in. But Jake Gyllenhaal takes that mantle up, and Garret Dillahunt gets some jokes in this movie, but they're all pretty in the same vein as, like cops fighting over jurisdiction. Like, how novel. It's all the same.
There's a lot of banter in that Hollywood cliche style of here's what happens when these brusque cops rub up against each other and take pot shots at each other. And those aren't all bad. There's some humor in those scenes, but it's part of the stylistic imitation that's not homage. It's like a fever dream. It's like the thing that Michael Bay knows is movies, but he uses them to blot out the real world, to insist that the real world doesn't exist. He makes movies where stuff happens the way he wants it to happen.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to imagine the characters in a Michael Bay movie existing off screen, or like a world outside of what we see past the borders of what he's interested in filming. They don't feel like lived in worlds. But to me, this felt like his riff on like a Tony Scott movie. R.I.P. Tony Scott, because I feel like if we got Tony Scott's Ambulance, I would have been there in the theater on day one.
That would have been brutal, yeah.
Instead, I took my son to see Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which opened opposite this movie and stole all its shine. It was a much better way to spend 2 hours. But I think the making of this movie might shed some light on some of the things that you're saying. So do you want me to get into how it all came together?
Absolutely. Let's hear how this thing happened.
All right. By 2022, Michael Bay needed a hit. The man hadn't released a movie that critics liked since 1996, and hadn't released one that made any money since 2014's Transformers: Age of Extinction. In early 2020, Bay was gearing up to shoot Black 5, an ensemble drama written by Top Gun Maverick scribe Aaron Kruger, but that went out the window when COVID-19 largely shut down film productions across the country. But a project from Bay's past was about to resurface and throw him a lifeline.
Or a defibrillator.
In the mid-2010s, Bay had passed on a remake of a 2005 Danish action film called Ambulance. The remake floundered, first being announced in August of 2015 with Philip Noyce set to direct, and then in 2017, Israeli filmmaking duo Navat Papushado and Aharon Kashalis were announced as replacing Noyce, but this iteration of the movie never entered production. After COVID hit, Bay was looking for any excuse to get out of his house, and he wanted something he could shoot quickly in a more guerrilla filmmaking style.
A film with the style of a guerrilla.
He was reminded about Ambulance and decided that, quote, it kind of suited his needs. And you can't put a price on that kind of passion.
Can you, though?
Actually, you can. With Universal Pictures on board as the distributor, Bay was announced as the director in November of 2020 and given a $40 million budget. Hilariously, the movie was described in the announcement as a more character-driven project that would move away from Bay's standard explosion-heavy fare.
It's so different, you'll be blown away.
Bay proudly proclaimed that he did not watch the Danish original or even read the screenplay in an attempt to make the movie his own. Chris Fedek, a TV writer and producer best known for creating the shows Chuck, Deception, and Prodigal Son, penned the screenplay. In early December 2020, Jake Gyllenhaal and Dylan O'Brien were described as being in negotiations to play the bank-robbing brothers, and Eiza Gonzales was reported as being in talks to play the paramedic, a role she prepared for by spending 3 months working with firefighters, EMTs, surgeons, and anybody else in the medical trade that would meet with her. She even rented an ambulance and had a friend drive her around while she stood in the back to improve her balance. On December 11th, 2020, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II was confirmed to be taking over Dylan O'Brien's role after O'Brien was unable to commit due to scheduling conflicts. A production delay on Aquaman and the Last Kingdom gave Mateen enough time to shoot Ambulance, and the leads were locked in.
In the back of the ambulance.
Filming began almost immediately in downtown Los Angeles, with the movie being in production from January 11th to March 18th of 2021. Filming was chaotic, kind of on purpose, with Bay devising new sequences based solely on the availability of certain personnel and equipment. While shooting footage of the ambulance driving on the freeway, Bay noticed a bunch of cops and invited them to be in the film. They agreed, and Bay then sweet-talked them into creating a rolling roadblock for production, which allowed them to close the freeway for free instead of paying the $400,000 it would typically cost.
Man, I'd pay him $400,000 to open the freeway.
Bay found out a couple helicopters were available for filming for a few days and came up with a helicopter chase scene in the LA River. They couldn't get a stuntman for the day, so Gyllenhaal just hung out the window of the ambulance with a machine gun. Speaking of Gyllenhaal, the run-and-gun nature of the production even forced him to learn some new skills. Filming in the back of the ambulance was so tight that for several sequences, he had to operate the camera himself. What can't the man do?
Close his eyes, even a little bit.
When the movie hit theaters on April 8th, 2022, it was a mixed bag for Bay. It's his highest-rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes besides The Rock, and only his second movie to ever earn a fresh rating, but the audiences weren't there. It opened opposite Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which made $72 million for the weekend and took the top spot, but Ambulance had to settle for fourth place, behind Morbius in its second week, even with a 74% drop-off from its first week.
They morbed all over these guys.
Ambulance took home $8.7 million and dropped 53% the following week to seventh place with $4 million as Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore debuted in the top spot. It continued to fall, and its worldwide take would end up being just $52.3 million, losing the studio around $30 million. But Ambulance has developed a strong reputation among action movie junkies, earning a cult following in the genre that Chris Ryan famously dubbed garbage crime. And if you ever wanted to see what a coked-out Jake Gyllenhaal looks like, you can always watch Nightcrawler. And if you can't watch Nightcrawler, there's always Prisoners. But if you can't watch Prisoners, well, you could do a lot worse than Ambulance.
Made me think there are moments in Bubble Boy, if you check our episode on that, where Gyllenhaal gets pretty crazy. Actually, I remember commenting on a particular scene that we thought was also uncomfortably racist, where he does a freak out where I couldn't believe how big and wild his eyes were getting.
Is that the $500?
Yes.
That's a very racist scene, but regrettably one that made me laugh quite a bit in my childhood.
He showed some of that wild energy that he brings back to this one.
Yeah, you kind of have to assume he always had it in him, but maybe he was tamping it down because he didn't feel established yet. But now he's like, you want Jake, you're getting the whole thing. You're getting all of it.
It's fun.
What's like a subdued performance he's had in the last 10 years? I can't even think of one. Like he was crazy in Presumed Innocent, which is the last thing I saw him in.
Oh, okay. I saw part of that.
He was very manic. Let's see. Let's try to find a relatively normal Jake Gyllenhaal performance from the last 10 years. Oh, I guess The Covenant. He was pretty chill. But then, yeah, Presumed Innocence, Roadhouse. He's got some real wide-eyed energy these days. And when I joke about him being on cocaine, allegedly, I don't have any insider information that he has ever used cocaine. That's the energy he's giving is more my point.
Yes, we're happy to attribute that to all his natural ebullience. And I say that, it sounded like I was being sarcastic, but I actually mean that.
Yes, yeah. So your kind of idea about the movie feeling like a sketch of a movie crystallizes a little bit when you learn about first Michael Bay's just effusive enthusiasm for making this movie. This discarded piece of shit that he fucking pulled out of the dumpster and was like, I guess.
Yeah.
But also the fact that he was conceiving the movie as he was making it and just coming, oh, this would be cool. Wouldn't this be cool? And then that's why I feel like so much of the car chase is just now they're on this highway. Now they're in this neighborhood. Now they're back on the highway, but it's this highway now. Because they were just like, where can we film today for cheap or free? And we'll fix it in the edit. But you can't fix it in the edit. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's quite chaotic storyline wise in terms of they're not driving towards something. They're actually, as you point out, frequently driving back and forth over the same roads for reasons that you can't quite grasp onto. And then when you realize it's just because they were making it up as they went along and trying to piece it together in the end. But yeah, he said, your quote here is that this movie suited his needs.
Kind of
suited his needs. Sorry, we qualified that. And yeah, to me, his needs were to make a movie that's all chase scene, 2 hours of chase scene with very little plot. And he really indulged that need. And that's why I think in some ways it's the best of Michael Bay just being wild. There's cars crashing constantly for no reason. Like they don't have to crash. Why do they just drive into shit? Like the cops are just wrecking themselves.
There's actually, I know we haven't gone over the plot yet, but there is a scene where the ambulance pulls up to a dead end sign and slams on the brakes. But then like 4 cops just drive past the ambulance and fly off a mountain. Like, it's one of my favorite sequences in the movie. It makes no no sense.
That is a perfect example of that. And that's in the sort of high-spirited way that you go, okay, I'm getting my Michael Bay out of this, like crazy, dumb crashes and stunts are happening. But it also allows him to indulge the worst, which is just like the cheap machinations to try to make the plot kind of work or try to explain stuff that doesn't make sense. And for me, who's a logical stickler, like a lot of that stuff just really rubbed on me and was a real challenge to stay on his level and sort of embrace his fever dream of a car crash tour of LA.
In the spirit of Michael Bay trying to explain things that don't make sense, do you want to start trying to explain some things that don't make sense?
Oh, you mean try to summarize the story? Why not?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Worst thing can happen is drive our cop car off a cliff. Here we go. Marine veteran Will Sharp, played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, is struggling to find work to support his wife Amy and their infant son. Will is frustrated because Amy needs an expensive surgery that their insurance refuses to pay for. In his desperation, Will tells Amy he's leaving for a job interview, but instead he's paying a visit to his estranged adoptive brother Danny, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. The brothers rarely talk because Danny has followed in the criminal footsteps of their late father, a notorious bank robber, while Will has always stayed on the straight and narrow path. When Will arrives, Danny promises he can deliver Will the $200,000 he needs and more, but he has to join Danny on a bank heist, and it's starting right now. After a tense verbal showdown, Will reluctantly decides he'll join the crew. The robbers successfully infiltrate a downtown Los Angeles bank, but things go sideways when rookie LAPD officer Zach Parker, played by Jackson White, enters the bank and is taken hostage. Officer Zach's partner, Mark, notices what's going on and initiates a confrontation. So the bank robbers pack up the money they came for and flee. But it turns out the LAPD's elite SIS unit has been lying in wait outside the bank, and a massive firefight ensues on the street outside. Most of the heist crew is killed, but brothers Will and Danny retreat to the parking garage. There, Will accidentally shoots Officer Zach. Meanwhile, a capable but abrasive paramedic named Cam, played by Eiza Gonzales, has reported to the scene of the unfolding incident, forced her way into the parking garage, and retrieved the wounded cop. But as she tries to leave, Danny and Will hijack her ambulance. When the SIS unit's leader arrives on the scene, Captain Monroe, played by Garret, Dillahunt, soon realizes their predicament. They're now in pursuit of a pair of desperate bank robbers driving an ambulance with an innocent paramedic and a dying cop trapped inside.
It's a good premise for an action movie.
It is.
It's very solid on its face, but it's a remake of a Danish movie. So the hard part, coming up with an effective premise, was kind of already done for them.
It was somebody else's good idea. There's a lot of inherent irony to the situation and the story. And like people talk about, at least in some of the video reviews that I saw of this movie, people constantly mention that, they watched the trailer and they're impressed with the trailer. And so I watched the trailer and I'm like, oh, I get it. The whole movie's in the trailer. All the story, all of the interesting character stuff fits in the 3-minute trailer, and the rest is crashes and drone shots. So like you saw the good part of the movie if you saw the trailer, and the rest of it can be a little exhausting.
It is fatiguing. It's one location, essentially. The location moves, so you do get some other background scenery. But I hate to be the guy, because I feel like we say this a lot, but like this could have been a really good hour and 40-minute movie, and it's just a kind of okay 2-hour and 15-minute movie. But that's been kind of Bay's MO for his entire career. He's never been able to self-regulate and edit.
Yeah, for a movie that's really about action, he doesn't fully embrace that, and he gives you a whole setup scene for the paramedic, and obviously she's a main character, so I don't know, maybe you could have done a shorter version of that. There's a whole setup scene for the FBI agent. I was like, I didn't need to be in his therapy session. This is just like a typical character. We know who he is as soon as you show up and you go, FBI, I'm in charge now. You get the whole picture because we've seen movies before.
And much like Short Circuit 2 had all these kind of branching plot lines that were overly complicated for the type of movie it was, this one, not only do we have to meet the FBI agent in his therapy session, his couples therapy session with his husband, and there's a lot of jokes there about, aren't therapists stupid? Don't they say dumb shit that nobody who really lives in the world cares about? Isn't that just bullshit? Which is fucking tired, obviously. But then that FBI agent is also Danny's old fucking college roommate. They're best buds in college, and they lost touch. But now, he knows Danny, so he's going to give them some insider. I was like, who fucking cares? What are we doing?
It's so little payoff for all that work, which is just to go, here's his backstory. He's such a smart guy that he went to college to study criminology so he could be a better criminal, and then he quit early to go rob banks. It's like, okay, somebody could have read that off a dossier.
100%. All right, we should start before that's an Act 2 problem.
Yeah, we're ahead of ourselves.
We got to talk about the main cast. So we talked about Jake a little bit. Jake Gyllenhaal is Danny Sharp. He's fucking jacked up. He's sucks the air out of the movie. And that is a good and bad thing. It's good because he's a very captivating figure on screen. It's bad because it makes every other character who is not quite on that level feel like a distraction from the main portion of the movie.
That's true. I think one other thing that it does is it elevates the script, which it took me till second watch to realize how cliche the script is. It feels like I'm seeing something that's a little bit different. And then I went back and I'm like, oh no, like all the dialogue, all the stuff is like really like Hollywood screenwriter, bro. Young guys who, watched a lot of hard-edged crime movies and are like, I'm going to write the perfect one when I get to Hollywood. It has that vibe to it, but I didn't even realize it had that vibe. And so I guess that's credit to Jake for elevating the script beyond its humble roots.
Yeah, we also talked off mic a little bit about whether Bay is really shooting from the script. So much of the chatter around this movie is about how chaotic and guerrilla style it was, and came up with a sequence on the fly. And a lot of the worst parts of the script feel like the worst parts of other Michael Bay movies. So part of me feels like he's just taking ownership of the screenplay on set and being like, no, say this is funnier, or this is cooler, or when we have this character talk about this, and that'll explain this other thing. Because he's worked with some pretty well-regarded screenwriters, but they all end up sounding like Michael Bay movies in the end.
I mean, I'm willing to believe that. So if that's true, we can blame the credited screenwriter Fedek a little bit less and Michael Bay a little bit more, which I'm easily convinced to do.
It's not hard. Let's talk about Yahya as well. This is a very cliche character. The military man who's down on his luck, can't quite get ahead in the world when he comes back home. He's got a sick wife. I thought it was a sick kid the first time I watched this movie. They're not very clear about what is actually going on, because I was also like, why is he calling if it's for her? She's on his insurance. She can call. That's why I thought it was for the child. I was like, somebody's got to do it out of the two parents. He's clearly going on job interviews and nothing's really clicking for him. He gets sucked into this underworld. Again, very cliche, but I think he hits all the right notes to make that character compelling and sympathetic and relatable.
Yeah, in some ways, he's doing the same thing that we're talking about with Jake, slightly elevating and transcending the weak script. But Yahya's task is even harder because Danny is at least written as a loose cannon type of character, right? He's supposed to be energetic and crazy and fly off the handle. And like you said, Will is the very sympathetic guy who loves his wife and his kid more than anything. And for that reason, his lines are even more cliche, more corny. Like this whole scene where you meet him and he's talking to the insurance company, that doesn't sound like things you'd actually say to an insurance company. It sounds like a sketch of things you'd write on a napkin in a scene where you were fighting with your insurance company. Like they didn't even flesh it out. It doesn't quite all connect. But yet I was like, oh, I felt for this guy because of his skill as an actor. The emotion felt real.
Yeah, he's definitely elevating some pretty utilitarian, let's say, dialogue.
Yeah.
A lot of exposition. But then he goes to his brother, Danny. Did you know they're brothers, by the way? They're brothers.
I thought I heard someone say that. Did they mention that in the movie?
They're brothers. Yeah, they say it at least once. It's either like once or like 48 times they mention that they're brothers.
So many times.
He goes and meets his brother, Danny, at his car warehouse.
His job is just tables. Do not ask about his job.
Looks like you threw this Corvette into a mud puddle. Yeah, he just works in a big fancy showroom full of cars. So we do get some light shed later that maybe it's like a custom shop for high-end cars because they have paint sprayers and all that stuff on hand. But like, why is Danny robbing banks? It looks like he's made it. Like this place is millions of dollars worth of inventory, and just the warehouse itself is worth millions of dollars in LA.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a Keurig. Like things are looking up for him. What does he need to rob fucking banks for?
It's very confusing. And again, Bay is not concerned with being tethered to reality because they don't establish for sure whether this is Danny's business or Danny is the boss at this location and he works for somebody else. Because he says, first of all, big plot hole in the movie. He brings Will into the break room at his little warehouse and he goes, we just got a Keurig in here, man. It's really good coffee. You got to try this coffee. It's so good. And like Keurig famously does not make good coffee.
Real heads know.
By definition, you cannot make good coffee in a Keurig. But putting that aside, this is Hollywood. He says the boss just got us this. So I was like, is he being tongue in cheek? Is he the boss? And he's making a joke about how he got everybody this good coffee maker.
My reading was that Poppy is the boss. Oh. Like Poppy probably has a stake in this place, maybe.
Oh, it could be that.
But yeah, the movie does not fill us in at all. But he's got a turtleneck under a suit jacket. Like he's made it. He's doing fine. I don't understand. And it's also like the amount of money that they're robbing is so absurd that it's almost comedic too, because Will shows up like, I need $200,000, like $290,000 or whatever it is. And Danny's like, how about $32 million? What the fuck? That's way more than I need.
It's silly hand waves. So like a movie that was more serious about being a heist movie would put more attention into how they do it. But Bay doesn't care, right? They just walk down a hallway and then the next thing you know, everybody's a hostage. The alarms are off.
They had $32 million just on a table in the back, like waiting for him.
And like the assistant branch manager goes, hey guys, here's the millions of dollars. Go put it in your bags. I'm out of here. Yeah. He literally says that to just excuse everybody for not having worked out that technical aspect of the heist.
His tone of voice was the same if he was trying to get somebody to open up an IRA account. Like he's just very, hey guys, here's your 32 mil. Leave it a review on Google. If you don't mind.
It's just, it's all hand wavy stuff.
Let's hold off on the heist though, because we want to talk about Cam a little bit.
Oh yeah, we meet her first.
Eiza Gonzales. She's good in this role. She's not a bad actor at all. I've enjoyed her in lots of other roles, but I really hate how this character is written. It's a very Michael Bay female character, which is he loves casting beautiful dark-haired women as characters who can't form personal relationships. Megan Fox in Transformers, Tia Leone in Bad Boys, Scarlett Johansson in The Island. She was blonde, but you get my point. And we get some really hacky dialogue between her and her partner, whose name they might say, but I don't fucking care. No. And he goes, this is one of my favorite lines. Everybody knows you're the best EMT in town and you can keep anybody alive for 20 minutes. So I looked it up. There are roughly 18,000 EMTs in LA. That's LA city, not county. And everyone knows that she's the best. Like they had a council meeting or something. They all got together and were like, oh, Cam, she can keep anybody alive for 20 minutes. Also, LA traffic being what it is, 20 minutes is enough to go like 4 miles.
If you're lucky.
You might not even hit a hospital in 20 minutes. So what good is that doing you? If it was 40 minutes, I'd be more optimistic about everyone's chances.
Yeah, it's real cliche. And I mean, that was pretty cringy. They go to this.
It's like a food court, right?
Yeah, that's Grand Central Market in downtown LA. An actual cool place to visit. It's both a food court and a market that has like butcher shops and produce stands and stuff.
Oh, I love going to those type of places. I love Reading Terminal in Philly is one of my favorite places to visit.
Yeah, I got to take you down there if you come out to LA ever. And we'll get those enchiladas, which I don't know if there is actually a good enchilada place there, but there's some good food there. But yeah, their lunch, she's such a tough, abrasive, cynical, jaded asshole. And it's like, couldn't she have been a little more human? It's so cheap.
Drinking her non-alcoholic Heineken. What the fuck is that about? You know it's wrong to drink on the job, but you're going to just almost invite criticism. What if somebody's just walking by and doesn't have time to stop and ask you like, hey, is that non-alcoholic? And they like report you because your ambulance is parked outside and there's probably a number of the dispatcher on there.
Yeah, there is. It's very clear that that's a real ambulance company, Falk, in bold letters on the sides of the ambulances. And the rest of the ambulances come from the same ambulance yard. Not hard to find her employer.
So what if a looky-loo walked by and was like, hey, the most beautiful woman I've ever seen who happens to be an EMT for your company is drinking on the job?
Clearly they would go, oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. And everybody knows she's the best.
She's the best in the business. She could do whatever she wants.
So you could suck it, buddy.
That had to be like a weird product placement thing where they're like, there's really no opportunities to drink beer in this movie just because of the circumstances. So we got to squeeze one in there in the beginning. And I assume that's what the Keurig was too, is just they paid somebody like $800,000 to be featured in the movie.
I know, but that wasn't even a Keurig machine. Like he gives them a little tiny demitasse of espresso.
Right, which as far as I know, Keurig, maybe they've gotten new models or something.
An espresso type of product. I don't know. We can't spend too long on the coffee in this movie because there's a lot else wrong with it.
What about the rest of the crew? The rest of his heist crew is a motley bunch for sure.
Oh yeah, there's something wrong with all those guys for sure.
So we've got Devin Chandler Long, who Jake Gyllenhaal keeps calling Mel. This guy looks nothing like Mel Gibson in Braveheart or any other movie. He kind of looks like Mel Gibson does now, just like when he's out in the world with his big beard or whatever. But this is a ginger bald guy with a huge beard and like a big jacked dude. None of that screams Mel Gibson to me. Maybe Brendan Gleeson from Braveheart is who he was thinking of.
It didn't make any sense, but you kind of go with it because the Danny character is kind of cracked anyway. And he's like, why is he calling him that? And then I think I did see a last minute explanation of this. And that's because his character's actual name is William Wallace.
Well, that's funny.
Which is Mel Gibson's character's name in Braveheart. So that's the real reason, not that he looks like him.
But I'm not misremembering. Danny does say, you look just like him.
You look just like him, and he doesn't. And so it's just
the William Wallace thing would have actually been like a funny beat to run with if we were just like, that's my name. That's why he calls me that. Obviously, you could massage it a little more and make it integrate into the movie better.
Make a joke out of it. But yeah, I think that's just like sloppiness with the script, mixing up verbal jokes that aren't visible to the audience. I think we might come up with another example of that later.
Hey. Yeah, we can't focus too long on Mel because, like you said, the rest of the crew's got fucking issues. But we got the driver, confusing because I thought they brought Will along to be the driver.
Right.
But this guy, Randazzo, whose the actor's real name is Randazzo Mark, whose character is basically like a 1980s stand-up comedian who's just, take my wife, please. He's on the phone with his wife and he's like, I hope you fucking drown, you nasty bitch. And she's just like, but I love you.
It's awful.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
His wife seems like a lovely person, but he's dead now, so fuck him. Hopefully his wife can move on and find somebody who treats her right.
Hope so.
But then we got my favorite of the heist crew. We've got Brendan Miller as Trent. Here's a few things about Trent. He is wearing flip-flops, or I guess they're more sandals because they have the straps.
Yeah, I think they're technically Birkenstocks.
Yeah, they're a little more reasonable than flip-flops.
They're still pretty inappropriate for a bank heist, as Danny's character points out to him.
He's also always got a lollipop.
Great character hook.
Which maybe he's a fan of the Thomas Jane Punisher movie. I don't know if you remember. There was a very memorable henchman in that movie that had a lollipop and a ponytail.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and Trent does he have a ponytail at some point? He's kind of got like a messy updo is how I would describe it. It's like his hair is sometimes just down, but I think he pulls it back at one point, but it's not really a full ponytail.
He's kind of a crunchy hippie looking guy. Yeah. Medium long hair.
Which is why him being a crunchy hippie in Birkenstocks with a lollipop makes one of the only lines he gets in the entire movie hilarious to me. When he looks at Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who must be 6'4", and we just found out came out of an active war zone pretty recently, and goes, I don't think Soldier Boy would have lasted in Brooklyn. Really? Are you fucking serious? Has Michael Bay been to Brooklyn in 30 years? It's mostly dog bakeries now.
No, he probably hasn't.
He doesn't leave LA, as far as I know.
Is he like not fly? Is he one of those people?
He seems like he would be, but I don't have enough insider information to say for sure.
Yeah, we can allege that right here on the podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah, Michael Bay is afraid of flying, and then you do that.
Allegedly.
But then we get to the actual heist itself, which would have gone smoothly if a cop didn't decide to be a sex pest and keep going to harass a woman at her place of employment. But we don't have time to get into all the issues with that whole plot line. And clearly an ode to heat. It's a downtown LA bank heist with a shootout between cops and robbers in the streets. But the filming style is too chaotic to understand where all the characters are in relation to each other, even just like the bank robbers in relation to each other. Because one of them goes out the wrong door at some point, and you're like, where is that door in relation to the door the other guys are going out of? Is he around the corner?
Yeah.
Is he on the complete other side of the building? I don't know. There's no real way to tell where all these people are. And the way Bay shoots it, it's a lot of quick cuts, a lot of drone shots. But you had an interesting point about the drone shots, so I don't want to step on your take here.
Yeah, but I totally agree with your point. And the drone shots aren't the entirety of the problem, but they don't make it any better. Like, he loves to use these drone shots as like establishing shots, not for the whole scene, but for moments of action where the drone will be overhead and then it'll tilt down and do a stomach dropping dive bomb into the scene, or it'll come careening around a corner from a high angle. So you kind of start to set up the geography of the scene, which is good. And then, surprisingly, and really strangely, a lot of the time, that drone shot would then cut to the next shot with a more conventional camera, like at street level or closer up. And that shot had the action reversed. So like there's a rule called the 180-degree rule in filmmaking where you don't cross the line of action, so that things may slightly change direction. But if they're going left to right in one shot, the next shot, they'll still roughly be going left to right, so that you don't throw the viewer off and have to have them totally reset their perspective on where things are. And for some reason, none of the drone shots are coherent. They start to set you up on something and you're swooping towards it. And instead of coming in close on that thing and continuing that feeling, you like cut to something totally different and backwards. And you're like, oh, starting over. Okay, where is everybody? Who's that? Who's that? And it's like they immediately waste all the energy that they created with these cool drones.
Yeah, there was one specific shot where the drone is coming down the side of a building going towards the sidewalk where there's some downed characters there. And I'm like waiting for it to get up in one of their faces. And it gets halfway down the building and then it just cuts away to an unrelated thing. And I was like, if you're going to do it. Let's fucking go. So not the most effective deployment of this type of filmmaking style. I think things get a little more coherent once they're in the ambulance, luckily. But even the way like these four people end up in the ambulance together is very confusing and unnecessarily convoluted.
Yeah, all of that blocking and staging and making this stuff happen I think Michael Bay likes that stuff. I think he thrives off that. We certainly talked about it in The Island. He drew out his chase scenes interminably. He thrives on the chaos, and maybe, his brain computes that stuff faster and better than we do. So to him, that's natural. And it's very easy to follow the through lines where it's a little harder for us. But what happens is you kind of lose the meaning. The only thing you get from the scene is like chaos until you figure out what's important.
Speaking about what's important, let's talk about my fucking boy, Garret Dillahunt as Captain Monroe.
Yeah.
So now you've been a Dillahunt fan since Deadwood, right?
Yeah, Deadwood was when I first noticed him. He played a cool character and then he disappeared, and then they decided he was so fucking cool that they wrote another character for him and brought him back in the next season as a totally different guy.
Just brought him back. I didn't watch Deadwood as it aired, so I missed him in that. But I first noticed him in my favorite movie of all time, No Country for Old Men, where he is hilarious as Tommy Lee Jones's deputy sheriff.
Yeah.
He's got some great lines in that. Textbook Dillahunt performance, if I do say so myself. And then I also enjoyed the show Raising Hope. Actually, my wife Jamie got me into that show where he plays like a sitcom dad, and he's really funny and charming.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then I saw him in The Road, and he was terrifying. I was like, the guy's got range. One of my favorite performances he had, though, was as a disgraced ex-military man named Ty Walker on a show. I guess he reunited with one of his Deadwood co-stars on the show. I didn't even realize they were both on it. It's called Justified, and that's our Justified crossover of the week.
Justified crossover of the week.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, he was supposed to be, I guess, the big bad of the final season of Justified, but he had a scheduling issue, so he got written out halfway through. And then Sam Elliott became the big bad. But he's fucking great in the time he gets. He's a nice match for Timmy.
Oh, yeah, that's a cool pairing.
Yeah, just two fucking handsome middle-aged men quipping at each other. They're so quippy. They're very quippy.
They can be very dry, very acerbic.
And that's, I guess, how I would describe Captain Monroe. It's a mostly comedic role, I guess I would say. Like, he's clearly good at his job, but like we first meet him in this tiny car. He's driving like a Volkswagen Beetle from like the 70s. And he's got is it an English Mastiff? Like just an enormous dog.
Enormous dog that's apparently Michael Bay's actual dog, his pet.
For listeners who have not seen the movie, if you've seen The Sandlot, he looks like the dog from The Sandlot, almost exactly.
Okay. Yeah, it's a tiny car. It's even smaller than a Beetle. It's like an original British Mini kind of car, Mini Cooper from the 60s or something. It's so tiny. It's comical. I immediately took a liking to him because I didn't graduate college, but for the short time I went to USC, and this character is a hardcore Trojans fan. Now, this can't be a Saturday afternoon, but he's dressed like it's game day. He's got a matching USC shirt and hat on, like he's going down to the Coliseum to say fight on to his Trojans.
Look at this. Garret Dillahunt, actually a native Californian. I didn't realize.
Oh, cool.
I assumed he was a Southern gentleman. I don't know why. He just got that flair.
He's good at playing them.
Castro Valley, California is where he's from.
Interesting.
You ever visit?
No, I don't know where that is.
He's likable. He's having him and the FBI agent in tandem is a bit of a hat in a hat. Like the characters serve the same function, except one of them has a personal relationship with Danny, because why not? So he becomes sidelined, I felt like, by that character, or vice versa. You don't need both of them, though.
No, because they don't play up the typical thing that you might expect, where they're not truly fighting for jurisdiction. They squabble for a minute, but they just go along with each other and they never actually get in each other's way. They're just there to help with the exposition, and it feels like a lot. But you always welcome Garret Dillahunt because his character, despite being silly, does give the movie a little more gravitas than it would otherwise have.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for him to be dirty or do something underhanded or reveal like a dark secret about his employment in the LAPD. But
no, maybe we should talk about that. This movie, when you start thinking about it, is actually propaganda.
Absolutely.
In a heavy-handed way. And it's weird because, like you said, it reminds you of Heat. It reminds you of other garbage crime movies where things tend to be more morally gray, right? Like usually both the crooks and the cops are somewhat gray and corrupt and do bad things. And you're kind of expecting that, but that's not at all what this is. In this movie, even the crooks have this high moral standard that like the worst thing in the world you could do is kill a cop and you better keep the cop alive. And it's the ultimate sin. Right. And even Danny, who's clearly an amoral character and capable of some scary things, or at least threatening to become like his dad, is very firm on that topic. And so, yeah, you're introduced to the SIS, which is famous if you know LA police history as being this shadow unit that's impossibly corrupt and possibly did a whole bunch of evil shit. And you're like, oh, we're going to get to see them be evil. And then Captain Moreau, the Dillahunt character, goes, no, that was the old SIS. We do things by the book now, and we're the good guys. And it's like, okay.
Were they related to the Rampart Squad, or was that a different dirty?
I'm not sure if SIS operated out of Rampart or were connected to some of those famously dirty cops there, but
they killed Tupac, I'm fairly certain, or Biggie, or both. I had a note about this later, but we might as well talk about it now because it's apropos. But these kind of movies where you have cops that you're supposed to like on one side, and in this case, that could be Dillahunt, but more realistically, it's probably Eiza. She's not a cop, but she's like the protagonist that's on the outside looking in from our other protagonists. It's Will and Danny. And you kind of need a secondary antagonist to unite everybody against. But But the movie introduces that very late in Poppy as kind of that figure, and it doesn't work. Like, think about Heathead Waingro, who's kind of on the outs with the bank robber crew and also a target of the LAPD, and kind of operating on his own. Inside Man had an interesting one, is Christopher Plummer playing like an old Nazi bank owner who both sides are working to uncover the extent of his misdeeds. Den of Thieves was interesting because it's the cops in that one because they're super corrupt and evil. But in this movie, it's just this kind of old gang leader or cartel associate. But like, he doesn't become that secondary antagonist till there's like 20 minutes left in the movie.
Right.
He's just like helpful for the rest of it.
He's very helpful until an incident that he basically precipitated through his hatred of cops, which is again being emphasized, is the one sin that you will be punished for, trying to kill cops. That turns him bad. Like, other than that, he's pretty helpful.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about Act 1. Should we move on to Act 2?
Please, let's keep this car chase rolling.
A legion of cop cars and helicopters are in hot pursuit, and they're joined by FBI agent Anson Clark, played by Keir O'Donnell, who happens to have known Danny from their college days. Inside the ambulance, Danny sets in motion a plan. He calls an old gang leader named Poppy, who agrees to lend his boys help for a share of the bank money. Meanwhile, Will demonstrates he's still a good guy by offering to let Cam transfuse some of his blood into the struggling officer Zach. But Zach is still losing too much blood, and Cam discovers it's because he had a hidden second gunshot wound to the gut. With Zach's condition crashing, Cam is forced to call up a doctor ex-boyfriend who conferences in a vascular surgeon friend to try to guide Cam through emergency surgery. Things look bad when Zach's spleen ruptures, but she clamps his artery with her hair clip and saves his life. But the cops believe Zach died, so now they're willing to use snipers to bring the ambulance chase to a violent end. They secretly warn Cam, but she tips off Will and Danny at the last moment and they escape the sniper ambush. Finally, they arrive at their rendezvous point with Poppy's gang. Disappearing briefly under a bridge, they send out several identical ambulances as decoys, while the real one gets a hurried spray paint makeover and slips past the police in a bright green disguise. Poppy's gang does more than just distract the cops, however. They send an exploding ambulance into a crowd of policemen and follow that up with an attack on the day's survivors with an automated Gatling gun. Captain Monroe is killed in the attack, and Agent Anson must take over command. But Zach's partner spots one gang member fleeing the scene and chases him down and kills him in their struggle. That gangster was Poppy's son, and Poppy is distraught when he sees this live on the news. So when Will and Danny arrive at Poppy's headquarters, they're ready to pay Poppy his cash and walk out, not knowing he's furious and hot for revenge. Did you intentionally put the word Poppy in this act of the synopsis like 40 times?
No. It's probably just because of my great affection for that inspiring character we know and love as Poppy.
Poppy. That's supposed to be a nickname. He's not Prince or Cher, you know?
I know. Yeah, first of all, give him a name.
Give him a last name at least.
Don't just call him Daddy. That's too generic.
Let's talk about Keir O'Donnell as FBI agent Anson Clark. I already talked about how much I hated his fucking therapy session with his husband.
Yeah, we kind of raked this guy over the coals already.
I just wanted to point out that I like Keir O'Donnell as an actor. I think he's a very solid actor, and he's part of one of my favorite episodes, maybe my favorite season of television ever, which was season 2 of Fargo.
Oh, okay.
He was good in that, but he's not great here.
Yeah, as we were alluding to, he's just there to give a little backstory on Danny. Although I don't know why you need two different bosses like trying to talk to Danny on various radios and cell phones. And then he's there because they wanted to kill off the captain. And so somebody's got to be in charge, and it can't be somebody that you haven't met before. And you couldn't put the rookie cop's partner in charge of the whole SIS investigative unit because he's too junior. So they needed to have some other cop who could take over the chase for the final part of the movie.
Why not Zaga? She's already in the control room.
Oh, yeah. The very sharp-tongued Lieutenant Zaga, who's the technical whiz. You always need one of those computer operator types who zings the boss man.
To me, the Anson character feels strange because he feels like he was supposed to have like a savant type of energy to him. Or I feel like they're setting up his character to be like a specialist in one thing specifically, but they forget to ever do that. Because there's really no reason to have him and Dillahunt because they're the same type of character. They occupy the same space. But ordinarily, you'd have one guy who's like a Will Graham character from like the Silence of the Lambs series, or so like someone who can like put themselves in the shoes of the person they're chasing and has a unique kind of affinity for this work. But he's just like, oh yeah, I went to college with that guy. I kind of know him.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't take it far enough almost.
And his character, like we talked about the therapy scene where you meet him, he is such a snide asshole in that to the therapist, to his husband. And then he's not that guy. He's just like a normal FBI agent once he's on the job. So it's like they didn't even use that part. And then they played this old versus young thing with him and Garret Dillahunt's character. And I had to look it up.
The same age.
They look the same age. That's the thing where like that whole thing doesn't work. Dillahunt's actually 16 years older, but he looks great. So you wouldn't know.
Garret Dillahunt is 61? Are you out of your mind right now telling me this?
He's not young anymore, but man, he's still holding it down.
Jeez Louise.
So that part doesn't work. And they kind of allude to the way that it doesn't work because the FBI agent's like, stop that nonsense, that old guy, young guy shit. I'm not buying that. But then he calls him Boomer. So they're still like trying to do that. But if they wanted that to work, don't cast Keira O'Donnell, cast a guy who actually looks like a precocious young man who moved up too fast in the FBI and has trouble getting respect from the older guys. But he's not that either because he looks middle-aged.
Yeah, he's in his 40s. He's not a young buck.
Yeah, so the whole thing, there's just a lot of what happens with so many scenes and situations in this movie of going, this doesn't quite make sense. Why doesn't anything in this movie make sense? And you keep coming back to, because Michael Bay wanted it that way.
What else is there to say?
Speaking of not making sense, what a setup for Cam's emergency surgery that she has to give.
I've got qualms. This is the best EMT in town. By town, I mean the largest city in America. And she doesn't notice the second gunshot wound that this guy has?
Real big miss there, yeah.
She's the #1 draft pick.
She doesn't check him. And on second watch, I noticed they try to pin it on the guy's partner because he's there when she comes and picks Officer Zach up. And she goes, how many wounds? Only the shot in the leg? And Officer Mark goes, yeah, I don't know. And she goes, okay, just one wound? And then
definitive.
They tried to pin it on, but they don't force him to be the idiot. She takes his word when he says, I don't know if there's another gunshot wound. And she goes, okay, I guess that means I won't take his flak jacket off and check that there's a bullet hole right in the middle of his stomach.
Cam could take the flak jacket off and just put it on herself so that she's dodging sniper fire. It might be helpful.
Even for self-preservation reasons, that would have made sense.
But the phone call with her ex is, the instruction she gets is pretty bad, right? Like a YouTube video would be more help.
It's silly. It's super hand wavy stuff. It's funny. I like the premise that she calls this surgeon and he's on the golf course and he's FaceTiming her on a laptop that's running out of battery. And they say silly things like, he has a gunshot wound to the abdomen. And the doctor goes, oh, it's probably his spleen. Why would it probably be his spleen? It's like a lot of organs in the middle of your body.
Yeah, spleen's relatively small compared to the rest of her midsection.
It's got to be one of the small, obscure ones, but he jumps right to that conclusion and he's right. So to see if there's a problem with his spleen, she pulls it out of his body. Like she reaches in and takes it entirely to the surface, entirely out of his body. Then it ruptures. It literally explodes blood in her face. And they're like, he's only got seconds to live with that artery ruptured. You got to clamp it off. And she's like, we don't have clamps. So she uses her thin little plastic hair clip. And then the moment she puts the hair clip on, his life is saved.
Can't be sterile. He's going to die of sepsis anyway. Like, this is just temporary.
Just pushing a man's spleen back into place in his abdomen with a big old hair clip on it would probably kill you. Not to mention, they don't even bother with any of the niceties of like stitching him up. Like that would be hard to do in a way that he could survive.
But he's awake. He wakes up in the middle of it too. And,
right.
He seems distraught.
He's screaming a little bit.
But maybe not distraught enough. Like,
no.
He needs to be more
He's
upset.
kind of screaming, but like he didn't want this to be full-on horror. And then in another silly movie trope, Will solves that by punching him in the face, which as we know in movies, that knocks you out and you can just come around later and suffer no other effects.
Right. Being knocked completely unconscious due to a head injury has no lasting negative impacts.
It never has in Hollywood.
Yeah, you can't really fault Bay for that one. That's just accepted truth in Hollywood now.
Yeah, it's one of the funnier tropes when you think about all the people who've been bonked on the head in movies and not been disabled for the rest of their lives.
Wow, we still have a lot to talk about in this section. We're in our bag today.
I know.
The LA River chopper stunt was pretty impressive on film, right? But apparently kind of precarious in person, as I mentioned in the monologue.
Yeah.
They didn't even have a stunt man for Jake Gyllenhaal that day.
Yeah, I didn't even know that part. And I was like, I watched it. I was like, holy shit, that's a crazy stunt. The choppers are going under multiple bridges over the LA River. And they're like, the chopper skids are below the roofline of the car. Now, some of that may be perspective accentuates it and makes them look closer to it than they are. But these choppers are flying fucking low. There's two of them going under bridges nearly at the same time. I was like, that is some badass stuntry. And it also feels reckless, like maybe Michael Bay is endangering people's lives unnecessarily. And it kind of sounds like he was, because it was like he was making this shit up as he went along.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I was served a video on Instagram the other day of James Cameron talking about a similar shot in Terminator 2, where a helicopter has to fly under a bridge. I think it was like when he's in the Mack truck. Might have been driving in the LA River too, actually, in that scene. And the camera operators were like, no, we won't shoot that. So James Cameron had to like operate the camera himself. So this is for 30 years has been like understood to be like a very dangerous kind of stunt to pull off. And Michael Bay just willy-nilly was like, fuck it. We'll just maybe get Jake Gyllenhaal killed today.
Or the chopper pilots.
His life is not worth more than theirs. He's just
camera crew,
be the news.
Any number of people. Like, yeah, you get this feeling like, oh my God, I'm glad everyone in real life survived the scene I just watched, which is not a great feeling.
And I guess Yahya Abdul-Mateen was like live streaming them filming this scene on Instagram when they were doing it. And even people on Instagram were like, this seems dangerous. Like, this is not a good idea.
That's Michael Bay going like a little too wild and free.
Wiz Khalifa would not approve.
So thankfully they did survive. And it's right around this time as the movie's veering into like stunts that, as you said, were just there because Michael Bay was like, oh, hey, we found an unlocked gate on the LA River. Let's go in there and film a scene today. And Cam expresses one of the very few movie moments of actual self-awareness where there's just an insert shot of her going, hey guys, are we on a tour of LA or can we get to a hospital? And then I realized this movie is a tour of LA. It didn't even hit me till that moment that he highlighted the letters LA in the title treatment ambulance. And it's not an homage to LA. It's not a love letter to LA. It's just a tour with car crashes.
Yeah. Precisely. But then we do get a sequence I enjoyed, which kind of breaks up the monotony of just them driving around being chased by cops. The Texas Switch, as it was called. It's kind of set up to be, who actually suggests it? Is it Will?
It is. I thought it was a Danny idea. And then on the second watch, I realized Will talks about it as something that the terrorists would do when he was chasing them as a Marine in Iraq. And then Danny gets the idea to call Poppy and set one up for them.
And it's pretty fun. So basically they have 4 or 5 ambulances under the bridge waiting that look like this one. They drive theirs under. Wale is in this movie for some reason. Wale is from DC. They couldn't find an LA rapper to be in this movie. Like even O'Shea Jackson Jr. would have made more sense.
He would have been fun. Wale's funny in it. I don't really know.
He's not bad.
I don't know him as a musical artist.
He's kind of corny. He was signed to Rick Ross's record label. I don't know if he still is, but he was for a long time. He's had some hits, but he's not my flavor of hip hop. But yeah, he's not bad at all. I don't want to besmirch his acting. He's perfectly capable in this comedic role. He hits all the right notes, but it just, for such an LA movie, like what was it about Wale that made you be like, yeah, that's the guy?
Maybe he's Michael Bay's neighbor.
I don't think Wale's got that kind of money.
Oh, he doesn't have Bay money.
Rappers don't make money like that really that much anymore. It's tough to make a living in the music industry these days.
I'm sure.
It's tough to make a living in just about any industry these days.
That's true. In America.
But yeah, so I like that Wale brought neon green paint. That was funny. But then they take it to like, they can't just let a joke breathe. They've got to take it a step too far where he starts spray painting the windshield of the ambulance.
Yeah.
And Will's even like, what are you doing? Why are you spray painting? How am I going to see out of the windshield?
Don't paint the window. And he's still painting it. Like he's a total oaf.
That's when it takes it from, he's like a kind of funny, like humorously inept to like almost unable to be a functioning person in society.
Yes. He's comically silly and dumb. And maybe that's why you didn't cast a different rapper, because it's hard to find rappers willing to debase themselves when a character's so totally silly.
Yeah, I think part of the reason now that I'm grappling with the decision to cast Wale here is that he's not like a tough guy rapper.
Right.
So he doesn't have that image that he's concerned about upholding even in a movie role.
Okay, that makes sense.
He doesn't just write like love songs, but I think more like conscience rap is what his genre is. Yeah, so that makes sense why he would be okay with that. And maybe somebody like The Game or Nipsey Hussle, if he was still alive, would have not been okay with.
A little too cool for that role.
So this very lighthearted escape plan is then counterbalanced with by far the darkest scene in this movie where they blow up a bunch of cops and then gun them down with a fucking Gatling gun.
Yeah.
A wheel gun. They put a dummy in the driver's seat of this. First of all, they didn't need to get like an old tricked out lowrider. It could have just been like a Corolla.
I know. That seems to be all they have, though. They're really into their customs and their Lolos.
There's also a throwaway line where Jake Gyllenhaal says to Poppy, I know how much you owe the Zetas. Talking, of course, about Los Zetas, the fearsome Mexican drug cartel that kind of changed the face of the drug war by implementing shock and awe tactics into their enforcement of their territory and expansion. Like really a gruesome group of guys who by 2022, though, not really around and hadn't been for many years. Oh. So it's a bit idiosyncratic to have that in there.
I can see where you were obviously a Zetas expert and that particular plot inaccuracy.
Like it would make sense.
I didn't even catch their name. I didn't even notice they were talking talking about the Zetas. But later, when I watch back, I'm like, oh, I see what they're saying. They're like, that's Poppy's leverage of why he needs the money.
Right. And if you owed the Zetas a lot of money, you would do some crazy shit to pay them off. I don't think there's another cartel that carries, even now, the same kind of weight that name did. Not because they were the most successful, but just the most brutal by far.
Yeah.
Interesting story, because they were all ex-military people that deserted the Mexican special forces and became the enforcement arm of the Gulf cartel, and then became their own cartel.
Yeah, so I could see why, as a screenwriter, you would throw that name in here because it's well known. They've been the focus of other popular media. And what else do you use? And especially because we didn't know at the time that Poppy was so strapped with military hardware. And so I guess that sort of connects to the fact that he's been working with them, why he would even have access to a remote controlled Gatling gun kind of contraption like he had.
Not to harp on this one thing too much, but all the cartels now have military arms and access to military weapons. Like they've all hired their own special force wings following the Zetas' lead. They were the first and most famous to do it, but not the only ones by a long shot.
It's fucking rough stuff, man. The reality of this is harsh. Yeah. And like you said, this is a terrorist style attack, car bombing. And then when the rescuers show up, ambush them and gun them down. And that's exactly what this gang does, even despite the fact that Danny has told Poppy, hey, we're just trying to like distract the cops and lead them on a wild goose chase. I don't need you to start a war. He starts a war. So Poppy clearly is a cop killer. Like he can't help himself but take the thing he's been asked to do and turn it to an opportunity to slaughter LAPD cops, which is, as we've said, is the cardinal sin in this Michael Bay world.
Up until this point in the movie, I think there was some plausibility to the fact that Will might see daylight at some point in his life, especially with the way he's helped the cop, Zach, in the back. He's helped Eiza stay alive. He's clearly trying to minimize harm in this scenario. But now there's half a dozen dead cops and they died in pursuit of you. Just because you didn't pull the trigger does not mean you're not culpable for that crime.
Right.
You are now a cop killer in the eyes of the law many times over. You coordinated that. And I didn't know they were going to do that is not going to hold up. Will's never fucking seeing daylight again. They're going to bury him under the jail.
As we'll get to in the third act, he does realize that. And I like that he ends up telling Danny that in their third act confrontation. But in terms of not reckoning with the consequences of the violence for this whole movie, Danny is going, oh, we got to keep this cop alive. It's all over for us if this cop dies, because then we will have killed a cop. But meanwhile, he's shooting machine guns at helicopters. He is leading innumerable cop cars to crash violently into concrete barriers, to flip off of overpasses, to flip over and explode many times over. It's like all those people could not have survived. So what is he thinking? It doesn't actually add up.
Yeah, just because we don't see dead bodies in these other action sequences does not mean nobody died. The body count's got to be quite high by now. I think the only thing that would have slowed them down is if Los Locos showed up with their newest member.
They would have kicked their balls into outer space, man.
You don't want that kind of drama. Was there anything else from this section you wanted to talk about, or should we move on to the end?
There was probably 100 other things, but we better move on.
Yeah, it's going to be our longest episode ever. Longer than fucking Heaven's Gate. Talk about ambulance.
It's worth it. The gangsters surround Will and Danny, and Poppy demands that they hand over the wounded cop and the girl so he can take revenge for the death of his son. Danny is actually willing to sacrifice them, but Will stands strong, even knowing that he might not survive the showdown. After a big argument, Danny signals to Will that he's siding with his brother, and the two of them surprise the gangsters with a wild counterattack. Meanwhile, inside the ambulance, Cam discovers that Officer Zach had a hidden gun. In the chaotic firefight, Will gets to the ambulance first, but in a tragic mistake, Cam shoots Will just as he opens the door, thinking he was a gang member. Danny arrives next, and they all escape in the ambulance amidst a hail of bullets, but Will is badly wounded, and Danny is forced to drive straight to a nearby hospital. When the ambulance comes to a stop outside the ER, it's immediately surrounded by police. And Danny, realizing it was Cam who shot Will, is ready to commit suicide by cop and take Cam out with him. But just as Danny opens the ambulance door, Will saves Cam's life by shooting his own brother through the chest from behind. The police crash in, rescuing Cam and Officer Zach. With his dying breath, Danny tells Will he's sorry. But Cam convinces the cops to help Will and get him into the hospital for surgery before he too bleeds out. Amidst the chaos, Cam surreptitiously delivers a bundle of stolen cash that Will had set aside to Will's wife so she can get her surgery. And later, when Officer Zach is in recovery, his fellow cops question him about what exactly went down, and he tells them that Will Sharp saved his life.
Nice try, asshole, but that ain't gonna save Will.
I know, it's like, oh, he saved your life. Okay, never mind. Let him go.
You're one person.
You're free to go.
Poppy.
It's time to come down on Poppy.
A. Martinez, who we were both like, maybe this is like a friend of Michael Bay's he just gave a role to, because he's not very good in this movie.
He's real stilted. His accent, which is supposed to sound like a Mexican-American gang leader from Los Angeles, goes all over the place. And I looked it up. A. Martinez was born in Glendale, California, like a couple miles from me. He grew up in L.A., so like he knows what Chicano people from LA sound like. But he sounds weird in this, man, super stilted. And I didn't even peg him as the same. I mean, like I didn't look up who that actor was. And I'm like, oh, I know A. Martinez. Going back to like L.A. Law when he thought he was like a dashing young handsome man, and he's obviously quite a bit older, but somehow his acting is just weird in this. Not very good.
Yeah, me and you were texting, and we were like, yeah, maybe he's just somebody Michael Bay knows. He gave a role to an old guy. I looked up, this guy's been acting since the 1960s.
Shit.
He was in Mission Impossible, the television show.
That's wild. That's crazy.
You got to assume he's given better performances than this and other. I mean, you've watched him in L.A. Law, but this is a very strange. Everything he does is just very off to me. It doesn't ring true.
Unfortunately, it hurts the movie in a role that becomes a tough sell because he has to go from, like we said, from a friendly guy, then he has to watch his son get killed by the cops live on TV and freak out and become really hostile. And it's kind of all a stretch, unfortunately.
Well, let's talk about the showdown between Will and Danny.
Yeah, this is where the two really good actors, fine actors in this movie, when they get to play off each other, which they do at the very beginning, they have a showdown about whether Will's going to join him, and they do at the end whether Will's going to have to go his own way and write his brother off. Kind of good drama. And then it gets a little silly as that scene wraps up, and Danny reveals that he's not actually breaking with his brother. He's starting to talk in code about, it hurts me that we're going separate ways, and you want to go left and I want to go right. And that's his clue to start blasting. So it gets silly as soon as they get any real drama going.
If I'm a henchman and I'm 10 feet away and I hear Danny being like, you want to go right and I want to go left, maybe we could just both go left. I'm just shooting them both. Are you not paying attention to the conversation that's happening with armed men that you are threatening? Like, get better henchmen, Poppy.
Yeah, maybe it's a tactical thing, because now that I think about it, his henchmen couldn't have started shooting because they've encircled the brothers.
It's true. So, it is not a great way they've positioned themselves.
Yeah, the brothers are back to back, and so they're shooting in two different directions, and they're shooting down all the henchmen. But if the henchmen had shot first, they would have been shooting each other.
Yeah, it's like Boondock Saints logic for the way that these henchmen are acting. You know, they're not part of the Zetas because they would have been trained better than that.
Better discipline than that, yeah.
I do like that the breaking point for Danny, though, is that Poppy keeps saying that they're not real brothers, they're pretend brothers.
Oh, yeah.
And my headcanon is that Danny was going to go along with whatever Poppy wanted until he heard that, because he gets very upset when somebody says they're not real brothers.
I mean, there's so many moments in the movie where they're like, the relationship is tested, and then they remember that they're brothers, and then someone says it out loud again, and they go, oh yeah.
Yeah, they remember, and then we remember because they remind us.
They go, oh yeah, let's always pick the brothers thing, which is, it's cool. It's super simplistic, but it's always like brothers over everybody. It's corny stuff.
Michael Bay's really into like male bonding.
I guess so.
The Bad Boys movies are full of this kind of like squabbles between like brothers. They're not brothers in that movie, but they're like brothers, and their bond and like the way that they can argue with each other. But if anybody else tries to get in between them, now they're immediately like joining forces against that person.
Yeah.
Kind of a running theme in Bay stuff, now that I think about it. Interestingly, with the Transformers, it's like Bumblebee and the main human character play that role, I guess.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that's a thing that...
I made that up. That's not true.
Okay. I was willing to go with you.
You got draked. Sorry.
Can I just point out one more qualm I have in this part of the movie with Michael Bay's detachment with reality?
Give me some qualms.
Officer Zach, who, as we've said, had his spleen pulled out, hair clipped, pushed back into his belly, and like hastily stitched up, maybe just taped over. And then he just rested for 20 minutes while they chased everybody around town. And suddenly he pops up and he looks fucking good, man. He's talking normal. His voice isn't hoarse. His face isn't pale. It's like rosy cheeked. He looks fine.
He's going to be back out on patrol tomorrow. My dude is top shape.
You cannot tell that this man nearly died, should be in a coma, would be like weeks coming out of a coma if he ever did in real life, for the amount of trauma this man went through. And like his heart was shocked multiple times. He's just been on the brink of death. And then he's like, oh, hey, was I out cold there for a minute? I'm feeling okay now. What's going on? Fill me in. What's going on, bro? At least act tired or something.
And then this war hero takes one small caliber round to the shoulder and is on death's doorstep immediately.
He is. Will is not built like Officer Zach. He is wiped out by that one bullet to the shoulder. God forbid he would have to have his spleen pulled out and clipped.
From like a 9mm hand, like LAPD issue handgun. They don't give them the big bullets. They don't give them like the powerful handguns. They give them like the 9mm.
Yeah.
No hollow ballpoint, nothing crazy.
Just went straight through. And it was like, okay, they put it in that area where it was his right side. It wasn't his heart. It was a little bit towards the shoulder. Maybe it missed his vital organs and key arteries. But like, he's dying fast, faster than anybody we've seen get hurt in this movie. But which thankfully precipitates the end where it's, okay, no more chasing. Let's just get to a hospital and stop the ambulance.
This is nothing to do with anything, but every time you say Officer Zach, I sing the Farmer Zach jingle from Detroiters in my head. Maybe I'll put it in the show notes. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
No, I'll have to hear it. I look forward to inserting it in the show.
And it's always bargain time at Farmer Zach's.
And that's basically the end of the movie. I thought it was a nice touch to have Will be the one to shoot Danny. That kind of gives that death some thematic weight. It's kind of telegraphed, but it works.
Yeah, everybody gets a little redemption in the end. Even Danny gets to apologize to Will before he dies. Will gets to apologize to his wife. Cam learns to care about her patients, which was like the mark of her cynicism at first, was like she was so good, but like a nurse asked her, do you want to check up on the little girl? She's like, I don't give a fuck about the little girl I just saved. I'm a cynical, hard-ass paramedic. But the irony of that, or like the setup for it being surprising that she didn't care, was her main life-saving technique in these ambulance situations is to learn the name of her patient. She did that with little Lindsay, the girl who's impaled on a fence post in the beginning, who she saves. Like, what's your name, Lindsay? Hold my hand, Lindsay. I know your name and you're going to survive. So like a nod to that fact that that is her secret to saving lives. As she gets Will hoisted up and is like, you got to treat this man. She hands him off to the hospital staff. She goes, his name is Will. And that's how you know that they're going to be able to save his life, because they're going to be able to say his name.
Yeah, he would have died immediately if they didn't know his name. But
Will, stick with us, buddy. Will, you're going to make it.
not for nothing. She knows his blood type because he told her. She didn't tell them that.
She didn't tell that.
That's probably more important.
The name is key in this world.
The name is really what makes the difference. And then I guess Amy's going to be able to get her surgery at least.
All cash surgery? I don't know how that works when you have stolen cash from a bank.
Where'd you get this? A GoFundMe. Yeah. What if there was a post-credit scene where Amy gets home, finds the money, and opens it up, and there's just a fucking dye pack in there or something like?
Just splatters her face with purple dye.
Brutal. That's Ambulance. Would you like to hear what these people have been up to since this movie?
Yeah, this was 2022 that it came out?
Yeah, so not that long ago, but there's been some updates.
Feels more current. Maybe that's because did it just hit Netflix recently? I feel like it's being pushed on Netflix right now.
It's definitely, yeah, it's got a resurgence.
If you catch this episode right when it comes out, it'll probably still be on Netflix. That's where I watched it. So it's good timing. We like it when it's easy for people to see the movies that we're talking about.
Oh, they're going to hate the one coming up in like a month. So we covered Bay extensively not that long ago because we did The Island.
Right.
So let's see what he's been up to. He's really like that Skibbity Toilet movie is a real thing.
Okay.
He's apparently filming it right now. Like I thought that was going to be one of those things that just never actually happens, but it's always listed as in production or something. But they're apparently filming it. He's in pre-production on a movie based on Sega video game Outrun with Sydney Sweeney attached.
Interesting.
And then the one that sounds good to me is he's making a Robopocalypse movie that's being written by Drew Goddard, who's a writer that we think is quite good.
Oh, yeah.
He's also directed the 2025 documentary We Are a Store about a collective of British parkour and free-running athletes.
Interesting.
Not really what I would have guessed from him. Chris Fedek, we talked about him. All there is to say, he hasn't made anything since this. This is his only screenplay credit for a movie. He's written for several TV shows that we listed and created. Probably Chuck's the best known thing he's created. That was a pretty popular show for a few years there.
Yeah, I never watched it, but I know that has a good reputation. So I'm like, oh, this guy's successful. Creating several TV series is not nothing.
2 movies in a row where either the director or the writer was like a TV creator powerhouse with Kenneth Johnson last week, created all those TV shows in the 70s.
Oh, right.
It's been less than a year since we covered Bubble Boy, so we'll just focus on what Jake's been up to since then. He didn't release any new movies in 2025. He was busy playing Iago in Othello on Broadway.
Well, that sounds like a fun thing for an actor to do.
Especially for a guy who likes to go big. But he's got 2 movies coming this year. His sister Maggie's directorial sophomore effort, The Bride, which looks awesome. I'm excited to check out. And Guy Ritchie's In the Gray, which will reunite him with Eiza Gonzales.
Oh.
Beyond that, he's going to star in M. Night Shyamalan's Remain, which is being described as a supernatural romantic thriller. That's coming out in about a year, February 5th, 2027. He's currently filming the sequel to his Roadhouse reboot. New director. It is no longer going to be Doug Liman. If you remember, Liman had some issues with it going straight to streaming. He wanted a theatrical release and they didn't. Amazon wouldn't give it to him, so they had a bit of a falling out. So now the director is going to be Ilya Nashaler, who directed the Bob Odenkirk actioner Nobody, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, that was a high-spirited action. Actually, that sounds promising. And we liked Roadhouse. We liked him in that character.
Yeah, I think that'll be, if not a great movie, a fun one, at least.
Yeah, let's hope.
Let's talk about Yahya. We talked about him a little bit because I brought Wonder Man for show and tell pretty recently.
Yeah, you were gushing about that.
It's so good, dude. But he's been busy. So his breakout role, I didn't even realize because I watched the show. It was in the 2016 2018 Baz Luhrmann Netflix series, The Get Down. And then he was in the Baywatch movie, the one with The Rock and Zac Efron. He was in The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman.
Interesting.
And probably his biggest role in a big movie was as David Kane, aka Black Manta in Aquaman.
Okay.
Aquaman, still the highest grossing DC movie.
Huh. Did I even see that? I don't know.
Aquaman's not bad. The sequel's not good. You just watch the first one and assume that's where it ends. But he reprised that role in the 2023 sequel, and I think he was a bigger part of it. So I might have to revisit that to see what he does with it. He was in Jordan Peele's Us. He was in The Trial of Chicago 7, the Candyman reboot, and he played Morpheus in The Matrix Resurrections.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Which felt weird not having Lawrence Fishburne in the role, but I think he did a serviceable job.
Yes.
We'll have to talk about that movie in depth one day because it lost a ton of money. On TV, he starred in Watchmen, if you recall, a show we both were quite fond of.
Yes, he was very good in that. That's when he first made an impression on me.
Same. Wonder Man, of course. And he'll next appear in The Adventures of Cliff Booth, the David Fincher, Brad Pitt movie that's coming later this year.
I do not know what to expect from that, but
hearing
curious.
Good things from like Sean Fennessy in The Big Picture seems to be excited about it. Apparently it's going to be more of like a crime movie than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was, which was very much like a hangout movie for most of it.
Okay. Is it based on the novel that Tarantino published after?
That I don't know. That's a good question.
Because I'm not sure. I sampled that and I'm like, this is unreadable. Like I liked Once Upon a Time and I liked Tarantino pretty well in general. I'm like, this is some weird shit that I can't digest.
Yeah, I don't know how I'd feel about a novel from Tarantino. But with Fincher in the chair, I'm sure he'll inject a lot of his sensibility into it, which typically lines up more with me than Tarantino.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting blend.
He's also going to be in By Any Means. And then this is the one that I'm really excited about. I couldn't wait to spring this on you, so I texted you about it when I read it. He's going to be in a TV show reboot of Man on Fire as John Creasy, the Denzel Washington role from the movie.
Creasy Bear.
Speaking of Tony Scott, I hope they try to match his visual kind of style for that show. Or maybe I don't know what I would prefer because it's so hard to emulate.
Very idiosyncratic look and feel to Man on Fire. And yeah, if you're just doing like a cheap imitation of Tony Scott, is that the right choice to make? We'll see.
I love arguing with my friend Matt about the Scott brothers because I'm a big Tony Scott head and I like to tell him that he's the better Scott brother and he goes nuts every time. I half believe it, but it's more fun just to see his reaction to it.
Yeah.
But I will say, I do believe it. I'm sticking to my guns. Let's talk about Eiza Gonzales. Her first time on the pod, as far as I know. She started acting in 2007, several roles in Spanish-speaking TV shows, many of them geared towards children. She was like late teens, early 20s around then. So like Spanish Nickelodeon shows, a lot of Argentinian television, actually, Argentinian children's shows, even though she's Mexican. She was in the From Dusk Till Dawn series, which is apparently a thing that happened. I did not know that. She had her English language breakout in 2017's Baby Driver.
Oh, yeah.
A movie I rather enjoyed that is just filled with problematic people now. And since then, she's been in Alita Battle Angel, Hobbs and Shaw, I Care a Lot, which we both watched and you really didn't like, and Godzilla vs. Kong, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, and Fountain of Youth. So those last two are Guy Ritchie movies. So she seems to have found a director that she can go back to because Guy Ritchie makes 2 movies a year.
Oh, yeah. It's good business.
Yeah. Steady work if you can get it. She was also in the 2024 Mr. and Mrs. Smith reboot series with Donald Glover. And was that Phoebe Waller-Bridges in there? Or was it supposed to be and then it wasn't?
I think she wrote it.
Oh,
maybe.
Okay. I think she was supposed to star in it, but then there was some tension with her. And
the co-star is, what's her name? The drummer's daughter.
Oh, Maya Erskine?
Yeah, Maya Erskine.
Yeah, I think that was supposed to be Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and then it didn't work out.
Okay.
Oh, and she was in The Three Body Problem. What is she doing next, you ask? She'll be in Mike and Nick and Alice. That is an action comedy directed by Ben David Grabinski. It's going to co-star Vince Vaughn, James Marsden, and Jimmy Tatro. I really like James Marsden. I like Jimmy Tatro. Vince Vaughn is hit or miss for me, but that sounds like it'll be fun.
Yeah.
And then she'll reunite with Guy Ritchie and Jake G for In the Gray. And she will also appear in I Love Boosters, the upcoming Boots Riley film starring Naomi Aki.
Oh.
We talked about that after the Mickey 17 episode. Should be good. And now, Ian, the moment of truth. Do you know what we're covering next?
You know what? I think I looked on the letterbox list and I already forgot.
This is a tough one. This is a controversial one. It's going to be interesting to talk about. Almost going to be quaint in its depiction of American exceptionalism. We're doing Team America, World Police.
Oh, boy.
The puppet movie from the South Park team.
That feels like a big assignment to absorb its politics, measure them against the time when it came out, and then be able to comment on on it in context of today, that's going to be a lot to chew over.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to put myself back in like the socio-political climate of 2004 because I might just die of contentness if I do. Like, this is great. This is all I have to worry about. It's fantastic. But yeah, I thought that would be an interesting exercise to see how it holds up or if it does at all.
Yeah. And that was a movie that I had strong feelings about at the time until I have to check myself now because I've come a long way as a person in the world since then.
Strong positive feelings or strong negative?
I was like really into it.
Oh yeah, me too. Same.
But I don't think I understood the world the way I do now. And I might have to revisit some of my takes.
Well, I was a teenager. I don't know what your excuse was.
I was just a dope. That hasn't really changed. So
I will say there are still things from this movie that I laugh when I think about and quote with my friends. I think a lot of the edgier humor is not going to age great, but there are some just like very silly jokes in the movie that I think are really funny.
Yeah, I would buy that.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. You made it all the way to the end of what might end up being our longest episode ever, but I liked it. You can follow us on Twitter at BlastZonePod, Blue Sky, BlastZonePod as well there. You can email us, blastzonepod@gmail.com if you have any feedback, questions, movie suggestions, or just want to chat about movies. We love hearing from you.
It's always neat when an email pops up in the inbox.
And you can rate, review, and subscribe to the pod wherever you get your podcasts from. And we'll see you next time in the Blast Zone.
See you next time in the Blast Zone.
The Blast Zone.